So this is what I want to cover as far as topics. Just introduce myself, a little bit about what we're doing, really why we're here and why we're talking about clean compounding, why it's important, some of the critical components of clean compounding, some of the basics of it, and what sort of investment is required, both financially and psychologically and strategically and otherwise. Also, what kind of training, what kind of unique individuals, technically, regulatory, etc., is required to run that kind of operation, and some of the challenges that you face when you try to run that sort of operation. And we'll get as detailed and nitty-gritty as you like. A little bit about me, like my colleague mentioned, I'm an engineer turned marketeer. I have a biomedical background. My first real job out of college was working in a hospital, a city hospital, helicopters landing on the roof, trauma center. So I've been around doctors, nurses, clinicians, patients, blood and guts. So I really know forgive the expression, but I really know the application side of things. I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV. When I was walking by earlier, I noticed that there was a physician or surgeon doing a video with AI and VR with spinal surgery and stuff. So I can't compete with that. But I wanted to say, again, my background's in engineered materials, subspecialty in diagnostic imaging, and I'm most passionate about clinical safety and efficacy, biocompatibility, and what material selection is picked for what and why it's important. And also what I'm not is a regulatory person by training or title, but you can't play in this ecosystem without being able to walk the walk from a regulatory perspective. I promise a brief presentation, and certainly won't make it an infomercial, but a little bit about Americhem. We have over 1,000 employees in 12 locations around the world. We're really proud of our recent acquisition, especially in Europe as we grow and double down in medical. We're actually just coming up on our 80th anniversary, so we've been around. We're quite known as a world-class provider of specialty engineered materials with a dedication to medical applications. This is some but not all of our specialties and subspecialties, and I certainly won't read them at you, but the real benefit, features and benefits that we bring are radiopacity, lubricity, biocompatibility, antimicrobials, color stability, and I can't emphasize enough chemical resistance. And I bring that up particularly because of COVID and just how aggressively clinicians are using disinfectants and cleaners in the clinical space to just really go after it. And it's really ever more important to have the color stability and the chemical resistance. So this first bullet here, medical OEMs prefer materials to be made and manufactured in a clean environment. I really wrestled with myself on that word, prefer. And where I'm going with that is I had originally written require, and then I wrote demand. And I thought about that a lot because require is almost like an agreement or a contract, so I'm not here to suggest that we have a white room or a clean room. It's clean compounding, and demand is probably a stronger and also appropriate word, but I landed at preferred, and in my humble experience, I've lost business for having manufacturing facilities that wasn't clean. So let's get to the cut to the chase, right? Here are the critical components of clean compounding for medical applications, right? We follow current good manufacturing processes or practices, and we have and maintain our ISO 1345 certification, and that's something not only do you have to work hard to obtain, but also maintain. So it's an ongoing requirement. As far as the technical side of things, we have a positive pressure environment. We maintain temperature and humidity control, and it's also something that we log and write down. And I'll get into more detail about what we track and why. But the bottom line is you want to keep contaminants out of the clean compounding area, both dirt, pollen, insects, and materials coming off the truck that aren't clean. Access control means who's coming in, who's coming out. I think that's also a security thing. Who's going in and out of the facility. but also if an individual, say, is working with powders and pigments and that person has it on his uniform, you want to keep that out of the clean compounding. Training's critical in any manufacturing component, but you want to have the right individuals who know the regulatory rigor and also know how to walk the walk. Lastly, cleaning and maintenance is something that is important, and that would go for any manufacturing facility, but a clean compounding, we're very rigid on what we do and when, the frequency, who did it, and how we track it. So obviously you need a capital and physical plant, so you need the investment from leadership. There has to be a rigor to do it right every day, not just some of the time, and also make sure the organization knows what the definition is. Again, it's not a white room, it's not a clean room. Why? Why not? Is that important to have? I would love to have that, but that costs a lot more money. Is it even necessary? Well, we're not beholden to the FDA. We make materials that go into devices. The OEM is beholden to the FDA. So I think it behooves us to maintain clean manufacturing without all the rigors and cost of actually clean room or white room. Communication means you have to tell folks what's going on, right? There's the internal communication and external. You know, I would consider you my external audience, right? But internally, it's good just culturally to let people know what's going on and why. You know, you invest millions of dollars in that facility. What's going on in there? Or can I be a part of it? So I'm big about that. I obviously love to talk and network, so I'm happy to spread the word. And it's great if you build it and make it run, but you have to maintain it, right? We're all technical people, right? Remember entropy? If you don't add energy to the system, eventually it degrades or dies. So maintenance is really important. So here's some basics. Obviously PPE. I'm kind of a numbers guy, so in my head it's 4 things, right? Eyes, ears, vest or uniform, and safety shoes. Access control, I mentioned already, and epoxy-coated floors are easy for cleaning, and it also goes to aesthetics, right? You don't want tire tracks and dirt and other things around, so epoxy-coated floors are paramount. They're easier to clean. So our facility is in Mooresville, Pennsylvania, which is in Bucks County, just over the river from Trenton, New Jersey. And this time of the year, it is as hot and as humid as it's going to get all year. So we've been extra keen to monitor the temperature and the humidity, and I'm happy to say that it's holding up quite well. Inbound inspection is about, well, I'd be Captain Obvious to say that it's more difficult to source material these days. So it's not something you'd want to reject if something comes in dirty, but it's critical to make sure that stuff gets cleaned and QC'd as it goes in. Water circulation doesn't mean circulating the water. It means keeping the water in the cooling baths clean and fresh. And I was thinking about putting visitor policy under maybe like a GMP kind of slide, but it's really critical to log who's coming in and out and who's visiting, and also give a safety orientation. So we actually have a receiving room for that, and we can give a short video and just get them acclimated. So yeah, if you're doing manufacturing all day, every day, you take it for granted, but not everybody, especially if they come from sourcing or regulatory or maybe even a lawyer, they don't know that stuff automatic. So it's good to have an inbound orientation. We're on the hook for it anyway. Yeah, so I mentioned that it's great to have it and to build it, but if you don't maintain it, it's can be a problem in a hurry. So the cleaning, we document how often we do it, who does it. We also have the sticky floor mats. Have you seen these things? They're like giant Post-it notes that you step on them and they suck the dirt and the pellets or whatever's on the bottom of your feet right off. And then when it gets full, you just peel it off and start over again. So we have, I think, 6 of those at each of the doors on the inbound. Nobody wants pests in any manufacturing, but especially in a clean compounding, I can't call it clean if I have dead insects and rodents. So we look for a service provider that came from the restaurant business because they get it, right? And they do. I never thought like pest control could be high tech, but they have traps and stations that have little barcodes on them, and they can go around, and it's all automated, like what they did, what they caught, and when, and who did it. And which leads me to say, when you're picking service providers for clean compounding, you really have to get the people that can do that sort of rigor, deliver a scope of work, required documentation from them. What are they doing? Give me a report, and that goes in the file electronically or whatever to document what you're doing. And if they push back or they don't know what you're talking about, that's probably not the provider you want. So what kind of experts would work in clean compounding? Well, just a quick anecdote, our most recent hire on the manufacturing side came from the pharmaceutical industry. So she has a GMP background, and I love the questions she was asking, like, hey, am I allowed to wear makeup? Do I need to not wear nail polish? Do I need a bunny suit? And the answer is like, actually no, but I'm really glad you asked that, because that's really cool. That shows the mentality of getting it as far as the cleanliness. Also, dress code goes for any manufacturing, but it's really important for clean compounding for their safety and also keeping contaminants out of it. I never even thought about this, and I don't have a pocket, but if you keep a pen or whatever and you lean over the water bath, and boom, it can go in. I think chefs do that too. If you go to a restaurant tonight, look and see they have their little thermometers or pens and this and that. So is it easy? Well, hell no. There are a lot of challenges to making this a success, right? So kind of going backwards, I would say material handling is critical. So it needs to be examined on the inbound for QC, maybe vacuum the boxes, really just keep the crap out of the clean area. And also what to do if it's dirty or if it doesn't pass muster, right? Well, there should be I would call it a penalty box, but I think the proper term is quarantine. So, and also again, it's so hard to get material these days, so it's, you hesitate to flag it or push it back, but it really needs to be stopped from going into clean compounding, and we need to initiate a supplier corrective action. Physical challenges, everyone's on, we're all competing for space, right? So to keep a physical area for the holding and the inbound and the quarantine is something that you have to fight for. And lastly, and my favorite, is really just the strategic management of it, really the cultural. Like, change is hard. Some people resist change. So to do it right every day, all the time, has to be drilled in and be really emphatically delivered. And I mentioned cleaning 100 times. You can't wait till tomorrow to clean it. You have to clean it at the end of the shift. And it's also good etiquette, right? Who wants to leave a mess for the person on the next shift, right? So if you're looking for more details, this is the kind of thing we set up. And I also want to confess that this is a rather new endeavor, so the fun part is for us is we can write these as we go. But I'm going to just show you 4 quick individuals that include the production manager and the process engineer that schedule things and determine, kind of like I like to call it air traffic controller, right? An organization that does compounding like we do, gets all kinds of orders, and apparently we do non-medical too. I don't know why, but and then we determine which recipes go into the clean compounding. So that person's going to schedule medical application formulas to run in the clean compounding. The process engineer is the one, sheriff, if you will, to make sure things are cleaned and maintained the right way. The procedures we write are written and owned primarily by the QA specialist, and we're on point with the GMP. We had a project charter. I don't know how formal your organization is or wants to be, but writing a charter was really important. And if for no other reason, it forces you to do your homework, your research, and document what it is you're trying to do. Because you can't just assume that folks know what you're talking about. Like, oh, the white room? No, clean compounding. Yeah, so here's some visual eye candy, right? 62,000 square feet. Again, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. I'm told this is the biggest in the world. We're really quite proud of it. It's a world-class facility. We couldn't be prouder. It's medical only all the time. ISO 13485. We have 6 compounding lines with mixing and feeding. And I won't show you the video here, but if you want to look at the link later, it is on YouTube. We're really proud and grateful for the work Haley did to get that video out there to show the world. It's bright, it's clean, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? I can talk all day, but you know, this day the sun just happened to be shining and gleaming in our fantastic facility. And you know, I mentioned capital, I mentioned investment. Here we are during COVID, you know, all masked up doing our ribbon cutting. And you know, I mentioned training and expertise. You know, you can't do this without people that don't know what they're doing, right? So they get it, they're good at what they do, they're dedicated to detail, and the extrusion expertise is top notch. I show this picture here, not just because it's a great picture and I love showing it, but if you look at the conduits, you know, here's my point. The fewer human hands that touch anything, the better you are for clean compounding. Now, I wouldn't go as far as robotics and that kind of automation, but when the clean material comes in, it's covered up and it's sucked into these top loaders and mixed accordingly. So the fewer people that touch it, the better. We also happen to have an R&D line before we do scale up, right? And that's the fun part, right? I'll talk about ideation in a second, but best case, you'd come to us, or a customer would come to us with a problem statement, right? So this is what I'm trying to do. There's the application. Let's work on it together. And we'll noodle. We'll do a whiteboard, all that stuff. Well, we're not going to scale that up to a high production line. We're going to do some R&D first, and we can check it, we can test it, and we can look at color in a world-class color lab. And as far as ideation, the ink's still wet on these graphics, but we have an ideation center where we can come in and collaborate, trade ideas, challenge each other, and we're open for business. We welcome you to come in when you're ready. I mentioned this would be brief. That's kind of where I landed, and happy to take any thoughts, challenges, or questions. I really grateful for your time and checking out my spiel.